Good morning, y'all. It's Skinny T here. We had a pretty bad storm here in the hill country, and I thought I'd use that opportunity to get up and make some type of sweet breakfast pastry for me and my kids, and thought I'd share that with y'all. We're gonna do an apple fritter, like I said. Got 4 medium-sized apples, quarter cup of sugar, quarter cup of brown sugar. We're gonna put a little bit of vanilla in there, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. We're gonna peel the apples, cut them into chunks, throw about a half a stick of butter in there, reserve the other half for the bread dough. As you can see, I've already started dissolving and activating my yeast. I put a couple of tablespoons of sugar in, along with about 1/3 of a cup of warm water, and reserve the rest of the sugar for the dough itself. And you don't need very much salt in a sweet pastry anyways. So we're gonna put flour in here, get it mixed in with the sugar. We'll also put a little bit of salt in here to get mixed in, and we'll reserve, like I said, half a stick of butter to go in towards the end of the kneading process. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on peeling and chopping the apples. Okay, so we sauteed the apples in the cinnamon, sugar, and butter. You don't want to cook it for too long, just enough to where apple will get a little bit more tender and it starts releasing its juices. You also don't want it to be piping hot and straight from the pan for your dough. So you want to remove it from the hot pan, put it in a glass dish or a baking dish, something where it can cool off. So we're going to start now. You can see how the yeast is starting to bubble up, it's getting very active. I also went ahead, got an egg yolk. That just adds a little bit of fat and a little bit of richness to the dough. So here we have about a quarter cup of sugar and 3 cups of flour, and then just a dash of salt. And so we're gonna get this started. Now we'll check the consistency after it's been kneading for a little bit, if we need to add a little bit more flour, because also some of this juice from the apples is going to go in there. So we'll start kneading. Okay, so that mixed for just a couple of minutes. I did end up adding an extra 1/3 of a cup of flour to it. I didn't use the other half stick of butter just because it did incorporate to be pretty rich with the sauce and the butter from sauteing the apples. We're gonna let it sit and rise for it'll probably take about an hour. You want it somewhere warm. I had the oven on. It's off now because you don't want it to kill the yeast. You just want it to leave it warm to where it continues to activate it, lets it rise. And so I'm going to set it on the stovetop because it's best for it to rise at the temperature between 90 and 110. Let's get that going. We're going to cover this in saran wrap and let it rest for a while. Okay, so it's been a little over an hour. You can see it started to rise up a good bit. Went ahead and put about a ½ inch or so of oil in the pot. Got it getting hot. Have a rack to remove the fritter from here to cool off for just a second. And then I prepped up some classic glaze. What I did was 2 cups of powdered sugar, a quarter cup of milk. And you just take a scoop fritter dough, and you can see it's nice, ready to go. The ideal temperature would be about 350 degrees. Try to give it a good amount of time, but you don't want your fire to get too hot. You don't want it getting really dark, because then it could end up cooking too fast on the outside and leave you with the raw product on the inside. tap on it and you can kind of hear a drum type sound. That's getting close to being cooked all the way through. And that's it. Let them cool down enough to eat. Just like that, you got apple fritters at home. That's where it's at. Y'all enjoy.